5 teams that have won the offseason and 5 teams that have lost. So without further ado, let's jump right into the winners. First up, we got your New York Jets. I think this is a pretty obvious choice here, as they just got a new franchise QB in Aaron Rodgers. You could say that the Jets were a quarterback away from being an absolute elite team. They had an amazing draft last year, getting the offensive rookie of the year, Garrett Wilson, and the defensive rookie of the year, Sauce Gardner. This team looked like a quarterback away from being an absolute amazing team. They also got Allen Lazard, Adrian Amos, and Randall Cobb to follow Aaron Rodgers to the Jets. So the Jets have a lot going for them now. What do you think about this team? Because I think you got some feelings here.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers leaves my Packers to the Jets. And I think the Jets ended up winning this offseason. They didn't have to give up this year's first-round pick for Aaron Rodgers. They were able to go and draft that edge rusher, Will McDonald. They got McCole Hardman as well. They got players to make them able to contend this year. You know, now their receiving core consists of Garrett Wilson, McCole Hardman, Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, Corey Davis. So they're deep on that end. I mean, really, it just boils down to the new franchise quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. You know, last year they were trying to work with Joe Flacco, Zach Wilson, and
not much.
Mike White. So now you got a quarterback who's won a Super Bowl and 4 MVPs that is only a year removed from his back-to-back MVP season. So I think the Jets are definitely winners in the offseason, or maybe the biggest winner in the offseason when you get a quarterback of that stature to come to your team, not even having to give up a first-round pick. Maybe next year's first-round pick they do have to give up if you play 65% of the snaps, but we're looking at it this offseason. They only had to give up their second.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of upside here this year for the New York Jets now with Aaron Rodgers. A lot of pressure on the shoulders of Aaron, but I think that's nothing that he can't handle. I think Aaron's built for it. I think he'll be excited and ready to go get started on a new team with some new friendly faces. We'll see. I think that obviously they won in the offseason. It's just a matter of, can they put all the puzzle pieces together and make a complete team now?
100%. And the next team I think that won this offseason is the Seattle Seahawks. They had 2 first-round picks. They also made the playoffs last year with 2 first-round picks, one of them being the 5th overall pick, which is very rare to do. But they were able to draft Devin Witherspoon and Jackson Smith-Njigba, 2 of the top at their position, arguably. They re-signed Pro Bowl linebacker Bobby Wagner, which that is going to help out their run game. You know, all those rookies get to develop another year that they drafted. They also signed Julian Love and Draymond Jones. And let's not forget, Draymond Jones was a stud. So these guys are going to be capable to make the Seahawks better than they were last year. I think this offseason they easily won and put themselves in a better position than they were last year. And people are even talking about them being 11 or 12 win team.
Yeah, I love hearing that, being a Seahawks fan myself. I think you touched on pretty much all the big pieces there that we acquired over the offseason. But the biggest thing for the Seahawks last year was the lack of being able to stop the run. We couldn't stop the run for shit. We got their ball run down our throats, losing to teams like Carolina that we shouldn't have lost to. So getting Bobby Wagner and Draymond Jones will definitely help out in that regard a lot. I think the addition of Devin Witherspoon, although the corner position was not one that was much needed by us, I think that will help solidify the secondary to be an absolute shut down secondary. And I don't know, maybe we have a little baby Legion of Boom 2.0 brewing here in Seattle. So can't wait to see that. I think that the secondary being so good is going to definitely help the people in the box, the guys in the box, because they don't have to worry about their assignments back there as much. Maybe Bobby can just focus on, all right, I got my gap. I'm making sure no one's coming down here. So I'm very excited to see how the Seahawks perform this year. I think there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of buzz right now regarding the Seattle Seahawks, and hopefully we can live up to the hype that we're getting right now. Next on the list, the Baltimore Ravens. I think we could start off. Lamar Jackson got paid. Finally. It was looking like that the Ravens might be trying to shop or get rid of Lamar Jackson, but he's now the second highest overall paid quarterback in the league, period, only behind Justin Herbert, who also just received a new deal. The one knock on the Ravens last year, though, is they did not have a receiving core whatsoever. So they addressed that in the draft with, I think, the 21st, 22nd, or 23rd pick. I forget where they were, but they were right behind the 20th pick, and they got receiver, Zay Flowers, who I think he has some upside. I think he definitely could be one of the better receivers from the draft. And not only that, they signed vet Odell Beckham Jr. And now Odell hasn't played football in a year, but obviously we've seen what that man can do. He helped bring the Rams to a Super Bowl 2 years ago, and although he did get hurt in the Super Bowl, he was looking like he might have been the Super Bowl MVP. So bringing in Odell and Zay Flowers is definitely going to help out the Ravens a lot.
100%. When you lock your quarterback up to a long-term deal, I think that's a win in any offseason, especially if they're the caliber of Lamar Jackson. He's a dog. I remember watching Ravens games last year, and their fans were holding signs that we need to pay our quarterback, and they finally did. So I think that's definitely a win there. Fixing the playmakers on the receiving side of the ball. Last year the receiver one was Rashad Bateman, and that's not going to get it done if you want to be a contender. So now they fixed that. They doubled down on receiver, getting Odell and Zay Flowers. I think Baltimore definitely had a successful offseason, and they retained all their talent. So it's not like they had to lose anybody to get some of the guys that they got in return.
100%.
Next, we're moving across the division over to Cleveland. The Cleveland Browns are your next off-season winner. They got star pass rusher Zadarius Smith to go with Myles Garrett. I think that's going to be scary on that defensive line. Zadarius Smith, let's not forget, he was a stud in Green Bay, and then he moved over to Minnesota, and he didn't miss a beat there either. He was a good player. They got depth at the receiver position to help out Amari Cooper and Cedric Tillman in the draft. They also got Elijah Moore traded for him. Didn't have to give up too much there. I think it was just a 6th-round pick. They get a full offseason with Deshaun Watson. Last year, he couldn't even be involved in team activities because of his suspension. So now he actually gets to work with the team, gets to learn the playbook, gets to work with the guys, and I think we can see an improvement from Cleveland last year. They signed Dalvin Thompson from Minnesota as well to go along that defensive line, and I think when Dalvin Thompson, Zadarius Smith, Myles Garrett together with their new reformed defensive line is going to be scary. And let's not forget, yes, they lost Kareem Hunt, but Nick Chubb is not a guy that can't take over the backfield on his own. So I think that they didn't lose a whole lot, but they gained a whole lot on that defensive side of the ball.
100%. And I think that all around the Browns are getting a lot better. I don't think the loss of Kareem Hunt is going to hurt them whatsoever. Like you said, Deshaun gets a full offseason with the team. They added Elijah Moore, so he should finish as the wide receiver 2 behind Amari Cooper. But this is a pretty complete team already. They might be competing for one of the top D lines in all of the NFL now with the addition of Zadarius Smith and Dalvin Tomlinson. So Myles Garrett, we don't need to talk about Myles Garrett. He's already one of the best defensive players in the league, period. The Browns got it done. I wouldn't be surprised if they have a winning season, blow some people away.
100%.
But moving right along, we got another team that is a winner here. The Philadelphia Eagles. Another team that made it to the Super Bowl and had 2 first-round picks still. So another, kind of like the Seahawks, that's unheard of. They had the 10th pick and then a very late, I think it was literally the last pick in the first round, or second to last pick in the first round. They acquired one of their picks from the Saints trade they made last year. They draft 2 freakish talents from Georgia. I'm starting to call the Eagles the Georgia Eagles as jokes, but they end up drafting Jalen Carter at the 10 spot, and they draft Nolan Smith later down at the 30th or 31st pick. I think both these guys are going to work out splendidly for them. They did lose Miles Sanders last year, but they addressed that. They replaced him with DeAndre Swift, who has the passing back upside. They also find studs in later rounds like Kelly Ringo and Sidney Brown. And they got busy in free agency, signing Terrell Edmonds, Marcus Mariota as a backup quarterback, which is not bad whatsoever, Rashad Penny, and Greedy Williams, while also re-signing some of their big players such as Jalen Hurts, Lane Johnson, Darius Slay, Fletcher Cox, James Bradbury. This Eagles roster is just absolutely studded. I don't think they really needed to do too much in free agency or in the offseason, but they went ahead and did it, and they're a scary team.
100%. The team was definitely money hungry. You named a list of players that they re-signed. They gave Jalen Hurts a big contract, and obviously Lane Johnson was one of the best right tackles in football. They were busy in free agency. You know, they helped that safety position after losing C.J. Gardner-Johnson, getting Terrell Edmonds, and they're back. They knew have a third string receiver. I know Quez Watkins was their third string receiver last year, but they get a guy who was pretty good in Atlanta, Olamide Zaccheaus. He was pretty good, and I think he could fit right into that wide receiver 3 role. Marcus Mariota is the same style quarterback like Jalen Hurts, so if Jalen Hurts ever goes down, you have a similar style, so you don't really have to change up the offense too much. I like that. And they get back to their running back by committee. They have Rashad Penny, DeAndre Swift, Kenneth Gainwell. Each running back kind of does their own thing, brings something different to the offense. Obviously, DeAndre Swift has that passing upside. Rashad Penny's kind of a bruiser, and Kenneth Gainwell kind of does it all, another goal line bruiser. So I think that the Philadelphia Eagles, like we were saying with Seattle, if you make the playoffs, let alone the Super Bowl, and have 2 first-round picks, and one of them even the 10th pick in the draft, I think your offense and your GM kind of knows what they're doing. Your front office is a star-studded. But now we need to move on to the off-season losers.
But wait, hold on. Before we go any further, if you're not subscribed yet, what are you guys doing? Go down and hit that sub button. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, so go help us out. Go get us to 1,000. If you haven't told your friends or family yet, go tell them. Like the video. Do all that good stuff. We appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Right back into it. Sorry.
These teams did not perform on the offseason, and you're going to see that they probably are not going to perform on the field as well. Looking first at the Arizona Cardinals as your first offseason loser. Now let's go through what happened in their offseason. They lost J.J. Watt to retirement. Yes, that's not on their front office. J.J. Watt makes his own decisions, but hey, they couldn't convince J.J. Watt to stay. He was still a formidable guy on the defensive line. They released DeAndre Hopkins, and they could get 0 in return for one of the best receivers in the NFL. That is sad. They can't trade DeAndre Hopkins for a 3rd-round pick. You know, look at the Rams. Yes, they weren't able to get a lot for Jalen Ramsey, but at least they got something. They weren't able to get anything for DeAndre Hopkins. They lose their starting cornerback, Byron Murphy. He leaves for Minnesota, and Budda Baker requests a trade. So all these players want out. Kyler Murray, he's not going to be in. He got injured last year, and I heard that they're not even sold on Kyler Murray. I know that last offseason they paid him, and they had that whole controversy saying that he had to watch a certain amount of film. Maybe he's playing too much video games for the Arizona Cardinals, but we're not looking on that. I think that the Arizona Cardinals are definitely going through a rough patch in their franchise, and I don't know if a lot of teams are wanting to go there. I know they're one of the least attractive franchises just based on their facilities, but they're losing a lot of players and not getting much in return, and that's sad for a team who has a decent starting quarterback in Kyler Murray.
Yeah, it's a very sad sight to see what's happening with the Arizona Cardinals because it seems like the franchise is just crumbling before our eyes. I think that this team is going to be obviously one of the bottom teams this year, and they're going to be in the running for Caleb Williams. So maybe the Cardinals go ahead and take a shot at Caleb Williams and try to move on from Kyler Murray and just completely rebrand and rebuild per se this Arizona Cardinals team because they need the help. I don't know what they have left positive going for them right now. But moving right along, we got another big loser, the Minnesota Vikings, who actually had a pretty successful season last year. But let's go right ahead and look through the offseason. They lost Dalvin Cook. They shopped him around. They tried trading him. They were unable to find a team who would trade for Dalvin Cook. And we're seeing that continue as Dalvin Cook just sits in free agency and no one has thrown him a bone yet. He's just sitting there waiting to be paid, and no one will. They also lost the guys like Adam Thielen, Eric Kendricks, Patrick Peterson, and Zadarius Smith in free agency. So overall, the Minnesota Vikings are going to be losing a lot of their talent, a lot of important pieces, and those are pieces that the Vikings are going to wish they needed because they won, I think it was 12 games last year with a margin of just 1 score. So they were already in very close contending games. Are all these guys leaving? Is that going to turn them from a winning franchise into a losing franchise this year? I think so. Yeah,
dare I say it, I think the Minnesota Vikings are the team that declined the worst, and that might just be because they played very well last season, unexpectedly getting 12 or 13 wins. But they lose Dalvin Cook, like you said, couldn't trade him. Adam Thielen, Eric Kendricks, Patrick Peterson, Darius Smith, those are not little name guys. Mm-hmm. Those are guys who are going to come in and like we said for Cleveland, they won their offseason by getting Zadarius Smith. So obviously the team that gave him away is not going to be looked at that highly. And I think Minnesota, I'm sorry, but I think that they're the least improved team and the most declining team this offseason. Now looking at the Los Angeles Rams, are your third team that lost this offseason. As we said it, they lost Jalen Ramsey, only getting a third-round pick. At least they got something back, but when you lose an all-pro guy like Jalen Ramsey, you're hoping to get at least a second, maybe even a first. They weren't able to do that. Due to previous off seasons, they have no first-round picks after a disappointing season, so they can't really get improved there. And not to mention, they have Matt Stafford, they have Cooper Kupp. They're a year removed from a Super Bowl. You think they'd be wanting to go push for another one, but they lost guys like Bobby Wagner, Allen Robinson, Leonard Floyd, Matt Gay, David Long Jr., Taylor Rapp, and Ashawn Robinson. So when you're losing your veteran presence and they have paid these guys, traded for big name players and had to give them contracts, they don't have money to pay these guys. We're seeing that, not pay off in the future. Yes, they won a Super Bowl, but we're seeing the aftermath of what the Rams did, trading all those first round picks in previous years.
Yeah, the Rams are now a skeleton of what was that Super Bowl winning team. Unfortunate sight to see. I'm not exactly sure what the Rams are really doing here and what they have in mind. Why are you keeping guys around then, like Aaron Donald, Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, if you guys are just tanking and getting rid of guys like Jalen Ramsey? So I'm not exactly sure what the Rams are doing here. They definitely took an L this offseason in my eyes as well.
100%.
The next team that is another big loser, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And again, kind of like the J.J. Watt situation, this isn't on the front office, but obviously Tom Brady has retired officially this time, not coming back. So that is the biggest piece of their whole team. Like we've been saying, the quarterback position is obviously the most important. And when you're replacing the GOAT with either Kyle Trask or Baker Mayfield, you're going to run into some issues. And just like the Arizona Cardinals, this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team is going to be very much in the running for Caleb Williams next year and definitely looking to actually get a real quarterback down there in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, 100%. I think when you're trying to replace Tom Brady with a guy like Kyle Trask or Baker Mayfield, there's no way you're improving from your 8-9 record. I think that just solidifies that the offseason is a loss. Like they could have got, if they thought that they were a contender, they could have went out and got a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo or got a guy like Derek Carr. Instead, they think that signing Baker Mayfield's the plan. And I'm sorry for the Baker Mayfield hit, but it's time to give up on the guy. He's had multiple opportunities. He had Cleveland when he had Odell, Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, and a solid O-line. Now Cleveland has the best O-line in football. He wasn't able to perform there. He went to the Rams, and obviously we saw when Matt Stafford went down, they were one of the worst teams in the league. It's time to give up on Baker Mayfield. I don't think he should be given another shot at a starting quarterback when you got guys that are bench quarterbacks like Gardner Minshew, who was a formidable quarterback back then for Jacksonville, never got another shot. I don't know why we're giving Baker Mayfield a shot at quarterback. Kyle Trask has only attempted 9 passes in his career. He was a decent quarterback for the Florida Gators back in the day. I'm not going to comment on whether that's above my pay grade to say if he's going to pan out or not. But I honestly, if I'm Tampa Bay, you got to start Kyle Trask, see what you have there. But overall, it's a loss season. No matter what, you're not improving from your team last year. And if you're not improving, that means it's a loss at the offseason unless you're shooting for Caleb Williams, which I think this team is doing.
100%.
And this is a little bit of an interesting one here. This is not a team that lost the offseason. This is a position. The running backs. Overall, the running backs lost this offseason. Kareem Hunt, Leonard Fournette, Ezekiel, and Dalvin Cook can't find jobs.
No one wants them.
No one wants these guys. I mean, I've heard New England and teams and the New York Jets take these guys on visits, but no one has yet to sign any of these running backs.
Right.
But a bigger story this offseason, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, and Austin Eckler can't ink long-term deals. These guys cannot sign long-term contracts, and I get maybe teams are offering them long-term contracts, but money-wise, these guys don't think that they're getting paid what they're worth. Saquon Barkley, I think maybe he's a $12, $13, $14 million player, and I could see the Giants being like, look, I think you're a $10 million guy. We don't pay running backs. We saw Ezekiel Elliott get paid, and it just completely backfired for Dallas. But there's got to be a fix here. The running backs need to have some love, because right now, if you didn't know, running backs' average salary is less than the NFL kicker's salary. It's crazy. NFL average salary for a running back is currently $1.6 million, and the NFL average kicker salary is $2.3 million. So it's unfortunate to see that Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, and Tony Pollard not get paid, especially after the season that Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley had, but it's a loss for running backs at the position here.
Yeah, it's very sad to see. I think these NFL teams are realizing that instead of paying these injury-prone, short career running backs that, could go down at any given point, and they still got to pay them, it's not worth their money anymore, which is very sad. I think teams are realizing. You saw what the Chiefs did drafting Pacheco in the 7th round. Dameon Pierce also, he did get hurt last year, but Dameon Pierce is going to be a formidable back for the Texans. He was a later round pick as well. But if you could just get these running backs in later rounds in the draft, pay them $500K, the minimum, and they're starting for you and they're a great starter for you, why would you take a back who you're paying millions and millions of dollars, who also is injury prone? Why would you not?
Yeah, I agree.
Obviously, the running backs had to come together, and hopefully they could figure something out that will work for them and get them back to being paid in the league. But the running backs definitely took an L overall.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like you were saying, I think these late round picks, it's not like the running backs in the late round are like Pacheco's a solid guy, but you're finding guys like, if we look in the 3rd and 5th round in recent drafts, Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, you're finding guys late in drafts that you don't have to pay much that end up being top 5 running backs in the league. And I think that you're seeing a little bit of a change. Like Tony Pollard wanted to ink a long-term deal this year, but guess what? He's a 4th round pick. Why can't you just replace Tony Pollard with another 4th round pick, pay him what a 4th round pick normally makes, around $1 million, and move on? And I think that's why you're seeing the average salary less than the kickers, because the average salary for running backs is really just the running backs who got drafted. Because those are the only running backs that are really finding jobs at the moment, which is sad, because I enjoy watching Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs play, but it might not be for long. Like you saw Saquon Barkley, I guess you can say ink a deal, but 1 year, $11 million for a running back who's considered a top 5 in the league. I guarantee you go look at any other top 5 position, no matter if it's a quarterback, receiver, you're seeing guys make upwards of $25 million. Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams just inked long-term deals last offseason, and it was north of $30 million, and the number 1, number 2, number 3 running back in the league can't even get 12. It's sad to see.
No, it really is. It really is. I hope that obviously the running back position can't just vanish altogether, but that's effectively what we're seeing in social media. It is really sad. It is really sad. The NFL needs to make a change, and these running backs need to start getting paid. Because that's crazy to me that Kareem Hunt, Leonard Fournette, Zeke, and Dalvin Cook, who are I think they all could still start and be very good backs in the NFL, but no one even wants to give them minimum deals.
Yep.
No one's signing them for shit. So it's sad, and it's embarrassing. I'd be embarrassed if I was running.
And I think it's gonna be really interesting on what the NFL does, because they can't force these teams to pay them money. They can't be like, you're required to pay your running back $15 million a year. So It's going to be very interesting. Even upping the salary cap, I don't think that's going to work, because they're just going to take the money and pay their quarterback $10 more million, like you've seen quarterbacks getting paid 10 years ago, $20 million, and now Justin Herbert just inked a $55 million contract. So we're going to see what's going to happen, but overall, it's a loss for the running backs this offseason.
Definitely.
But yeah, I think that's your winners and losers for the offseason. Comment down below who you think won the offseason. Was it your favorite team? I doubt it, unfortunately, because my favorite team was Green Bay, and it was really hard not to put them on the loser list after not getting somewhat of a first-round pick back for Aaron Rodgers. But yeah, I think some of these teams, winning-wise, determined why they're going to be contenders, and losing-wise determined why they're going to be pretenders this offseason.
100%. I think I couldn't have said it any better myself, Trav. But with that being said, Travis,
as always, cue that outro, baby.
Peace.